Hey, brothers and sisters. I know I've been away for the last week or so. I'm gonna get back on my grind of just giving daily encouragement and a message and or whatever God's leading me in His Spirit is in that moment. This last probably week or so, I had taken off. I felt like I needed some rest, and I know I didn't disclose that with y'all, but you can't forget God on the seventh day rested Himself. Sabbath. It's something God did. The Most High rested Himself. So don't forget in the midst of whatever you're going for, whatever you're called to do, to rest. You got to take your seasons and you take your moments where you lay it down and you totally kind of not necessarily have to be put in the perspective of Ghost, but you don't concern yourself with the matters that are at hand on that specific day and or season, because you can have rest for a season. It doesn't have to be just a day. It could be maybe a week you needed rest, or even a month, or even a year. Who knows how long a season can be. But with all that being said, I'm definitely back in regards to giving y'all messages and encouragement. I do want y'all to understand that throughout every day, you should be constantly talking to the Lord about the good, bad, and ugly. As He says, pray without ceasing. That's something I think maybe many of us already do. We may not just realize it, and maybe you don't realize who you're talking to, but that's definitely important too. Having discernment. Are you talking to God, or are you talking to maybe the adversary? And having that discernment about your thoughts. He says, take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. So in that, maybe sit down and talk about those hard conversations about things that maybe you don't want to talk about at all. Maybe slowly chew on them. I'm sure the way He works is He'll press it on your heart, consistently and continuously. Come on, I know you can do it. Maybe you don't want to talk to Him about it at that day, but maybe the next day He stirs it up, or the next day, or the next day, or the next day, and He keeps pressing. But slowly try to be willing to allow Him into whatever subject or topic it is that you don't want to talk to Him about it. And He's patient. He's way more patient than you are. That's how He deals with us and our short attitudes and our frustrations and our lack of. He's so kind and merciful. So don't be discouraged, especially if whatever the topic or subject is that you don't want to talk to Him about, it seems like it's desolate, destroyed, overdone, abandoned. You can't forget His word. He says He works out all things for the good of those who love Him. Now, with that being said, you know, we can't exploit that verse and be like, oh, well, He loves me, and so He's going to work everything out. It's for the good of those who love Him. And He says, if you love me, you obey my commandments. Now, I'm not going to say that verse in a legalistic way, because we all fall and fell short of the law, of obeying His commandments. That's the reality of it. His commandments go all the way down to the intimate little nudgings He puts on your heart throughout your day. That's a commandment. When He's like, hey, go help that old lady put her groceries in her car. Hey, go encourage your coworker. Hey, go open the door for that old man walking with the cane. All those are ultimately commandments. When He's having His relationship with you and telling you to do something, and then you don't do it, you're falling short. So it's more than just the clear as day, broad daylight, verses that you see in the scripture, thou shalt not, this and that, right? Because He says, so whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. With that being said, we know that we say no to Him all the time, and we're going to think we're going to have a justified reason to why we say no sometimes. Sometimes we straight up know we don't, but we still choose what we want. You look at Jonah. God told Jonah to go preach to uh, a city called Nineveh, and Jonah told God no. He was like, no, I'm not going to Nineveh. I'm not going to go preach to them. They don't care about what you have to say and what you have to offer. They just don't care. They don't appreciate it. They don't value it. You had sent multiple prophets before to tell them, and they dismissed and ignored those prophets. So no, I'm not going. And that's what he did. And in his mind, he had a justified reason, because he was like, God, you said that you were going to send this amount of prophets, and if they don't listen, you're going to destroy them. So destroy them. So he was kind of trying to put God, in a way, hold Him to His own word. But God was like, how can I destroy them? They don't know their left hand from their right hand. Therefore, looking at them as children, having mercy. With all this being said, we're going to have reasons why we genuinely feel justified and why we tell God no. And You're going to have to sometimes totally forsake your thoughts. See, that's why he says forsake. He says, lean not to your own understanding, but trust in God in all his ways, for his ways are above your ways. So at the end of the day, Jonah went in his own way, and God did have God's way be done. God's will was done, and Jonah did end up going to preach. So what I'm trying to say is God's will is going to be done regardless, right? So why irritably and frustratingly fight the Most High when you could just willingly align up with him, when his will is going to be done regardless? You know, he doesn't know, he knows not defeat. And then you do have the aspect of even fear that you'll miss out on being a blessing in his will being done, because you can look at it like Elijah and Elisha. God had Elijah give up his anointing to Elisha, and you can forfeit what you were supposed to do because you weren't willing to do it. And then to top it off, out of all of this, and it might sound and feel tyrannical and like, man, whatever, he wants his will done no matter what, and I got to do it. That sounds like slavery, bondage, XYZ. It sounds like that at first glance until you know his heart and his character, and then you start to realize the will he was asking you to do, that you were so frustrated and resisting, was a perfect, holy, pleasing, beautiful, loving will. It was something that you would have desired if you understood the full picture, but you're not God, so you can't see the full perspective. You understand? Like he's the Most High. He sits high up on his throne and can look down and see every angle, every route, every detour, every distraction, every most optimal way to go. He can see all of it. And so when he sets things up, it doesn't make sense to us. It's like we're the pawn and he's the king, and he has things set up in a way, and he's looking big picture. But us being the pawn, we can only see what's right in front of us, or the attack we can move diagonally and go, and that's it. And we're like, this move doesn't make no sense. This is stupid. Sometimes he's going to put you in a spot when you're playing chess and you're the pawn. He's going to put you in a spot to be the sacrificial pawn for the greater cause. That's what he's going to do. And he's the most justified to be able to do it. Him doing that with his son alone. He offered up he sacrificed the highest, best possible thing he could sacrifice. So when he tells us to sacrifice things that aren't even worth comparing to who his son was, how can we get mad at him? It's like he did it himself. He led by example. He was the king, the ruler, the charge, the commander, the general that didn't just be like, hey, go do it, and then sits back in his office and doesn't relate to warfare and battle. He had done it himself and showed by demonstration while leading the charge. And now he's asking us to man up, or to woman up, quote unquote, and to go in and be bold and have faith and do the same. But even then, knowing why he was telling you to do whatever it was, to realize it's for the victory. It's for the greatest possible reasons and cause you could ever desire. And in the midst of it, it does take us time. It takes us maturity. It takes us sanctification. It takes us into holiness to realize this is way bigger than me. Like Jonah, him telling God no. I don't know if you've ever pondered about what Jonah was maybe thinking. Jonah's like, nah, I'm not going to go preach to them. I could go preach to this other city that's more than willing to hear about the gospel. He could have had that. And even in that perspective, that could have been justifiable in his mind. Like, they don't care about me sharing the gospel with them. So screw them. I'm going to go to this other nation and share the gospel with them, God. And then in his mind, you could easily see how he can start justifying this. See, God, I'm still sharing your gospel. But God was like, nah. I have this specific group of people that I want. I don't care that they've rejected me 50 times. That's what we've all done. We've all done that. Nobody can say they have not. Like, not a single soul. So don't be deceived and let anybody pull up on you in an aspect of thinking they are holy and they are justified and they are holier than thou in a quote-unquote sense, that they earned their salvation. It was all grace. And yes, they are holy because of what he did. So understand the difference between one saying they're holy because of God and one saying they're holy because of what they've done. Nobody is worthy but the Son, and that's who he came and died for, all of us. So always lift up him. Always give praise to him, glory to him for what he's done for us. And that's why it is a gift. But the thing about a gift, you can't forget, you can't receive a gift with closed hands. You got to open up your hands and therefore set down whatever it is that you probably have in it currently right now. Take care of yourselves and guard your hearts. God bless.